It's become clear to me this week, as if it weren't clear to me already before this, that Apple is unstoppable. Why is that? Hey there, friends on YouTube. My name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest, it hurts. This is your first time here. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you will come back again, and you know there are ways that you can make that happen. If you've been here before, why do you keep coming back? I don't want to know. Just know that I appreciate it. Let's talk about this thing. Apple seems to be unstoppable as a company. They're the first trillion-dollar company. They could sell ice to an Eskimo, as they say. And it's just mind-boggling because really, Apple, they have had a lot of problems. And those problems have gotten a lot bigger even in recent years. Let's talk a little bit about those problems and let's ask ourselves, why is it that Apple's unstoppable? Spoiler alert, it's our fault. First off, let's go through some of the problems that Apple's had over the years and just sort of make a list so we have a little bit of something to work with here. We've got Antenna-gate, where Steve Jobs told us, you're holding it wrong. Ben-gate and touch disease. Apple knew all along that this could happen, and when it started to happen, Apple made people pay for the repairs instead of actually manning up and saying, our bad. There have been rashes of suicides at the Apple Foxconn plants where workers would jump off the building and kill themselves. Apple really manned up on this one, and they put nets around the bottom of the building so the people wouldn't die. They might just really hurt themselves. There's price gouging, of which we saw already this week, and tax practices. Apple seems to be able to run their taxes through Ireland and other places and just not pay very much. And that seems to go contrary to, Apple's stance of being like, yes, we're an American company. We want to support American industry, etc., etc. Then we got data security. Everybody loves how secure Apple is. But what about that Find My iPhone problem that they had a few years back where people's Apple IDs were compromised and hackers got access to their iCloud data? This was the exploit used by hackers to bring about the fappening. A lot of celebrities decided to take nude pictures of themselves and their friends and put them in iCloud, and somebody was able to break in, take those nude photos, and share them with the world. Like Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. And what about those class action lawsuits? I mean, we've had recently Macbook Pro keyboards. We've had the great slowdown of iPhones from 2017, where seemingly Apple was trying to do us a solid by slowing down older phones so that we had enough battery to make our phone calls. They're really looking out for us in that way. That alone brought about 59 class action lawsuits. And Apple actually did a mea culpa and said, hey, you know what? We'll replace your batteries for cheaper than we usually do. Then there are the product failures and the quality control issues. We don't have to look that far back. We can just look at the HomePod from earlier this year, which was long delayed and then released without features that were really necessary to make it a worthwhile product. There's the MacBook Pro Keyboard issue where any speck of dust would get on the key and then the key wouldn't work. And supposedly now with the 2018 MacBook Pros, Apple has put a little silicone prophylactic over the keys underneath, and that might help. I don't know. And then, I've got my own problems. This year, I own 2 iMacs, and both had Bluetooth problems that kept me from really being able to use the Bluetooth peripherals that Apple sells along with the device. And then I've had 3 MacBook Pros, and all 3 of those MacBook Pros had issues. In fact, this new MacBook Pro that I'm using right now seems to want to reinstall its operating system, or seems to think it needs to reinstall its operating system every other time I restart the machine. And then it makes this weird noise when I'm watching videos sometimes. And yeah, I really don't know. Not to mention the fans are just blowing 100 miles an hour all the time. I've been an Apple customer for a long time. I've never had these kinds of problems with Apple products until recently. And that brings me back to the question at hand. Is Apple unstoppable? You might be saying, they never poisoned anybody or anything. Well, they did. Workers at an Apple plant were poisoned, and then they were paid off with about $2,000 or less dollars for their troubles. The list of Apple's transgressions inflicted upon the consumers and the world at large is long, but it hasn't stopped them from succeeding beyond any imaginable expectation. I'd venture to guess that in their daily lives, many Apple customers would be against a lot of these things that Apple has perpetrated, but for some reason, that doesn't seem to stop them from buying Apple's products. Why? Why does Apple continue to succeed when their record is so littered with problem after problem? Whether it's tax evasion, faulty products, worker death, and poisoning, they continue to grow. It's like the whole world has decided to cast a collective blind eye when it comes to Apple, where other companies would likely be torn asunder, torn down all the way to the ground. Apple still thrives. Part of Apple's success is how they've built their mystique, the mystique of their brand. People who are dyed-in-the-wool Apple sheeps will go to any length to support their company and make excuses. But I bet if we went through this list of problems and took the name Apple away and asked people how much they would want to buy a product from a company that did these things, the majority of those Apple sheep would say, no, I don't want to have anything to do with a company like that. Is Apple unstoppable? Will they continue to reign over the world, sell their products regardless of how they comport themselves and what they do? All signs, unfortunately, point to yes. Why? Because people who should hold them accountable don't. I'm amongst that number, and if you're an Apple customer, so are you. I continue to buy Apple products even knowing all of this and having many negative experiences as well. Until the people who enable Apple start to hold that company accountable and demand Apple be better, it's going to go on like this forever. It may seem hopeless. It may seem like Apple is unstoppable, but I do know this. Brands that haven't acted responsibly in the past have ultimately gone the way of the dodo, become footnotes in history. And if Apple continues down this path, it's only a matter of time before their transgressions against their customers and the world at large come back to bite them in the rear end. So what do you think? Is Apple unstoppable? Should they be unstoppable? Should we hold them more accountable? Let me know down in the comments. Let's have a boisterous discussion. I really do appreciate it. Thanks so much for being here. If this was your first time here and you do want to come back and you want to hear more of me talking about things ad nauseum, then you can hit the subscribe button and there's a bell notification icon there. And you can hit that and then you can say, give me all notifications, and everybody will be happy. If you've been here before and you've come back again, well, I've run out of nice things to say about you, but I still feel them all. Again, my name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Until the next time, I'm out.